To everybody who still pays for Rust servers like absolute losers, this video is for you. You can stop paying to host your own Rust server by setting one up for completely free, and I've been doing this for years, and man, it saves money. So just watch this video and I'll be showing you not just how to set up a server, but also how to install mods and add custom maps, which I had a lot of people ask about. I'm pretty much saving you money, so I think you gotta subscribe. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go onto our web browser because we got to install a few things here to actually get the server going. And the first thing here is Oxide, and you could skip this one if you don't want mods, but if you're looking to get mods, go to /game/rust. I'll leave a link in the description, and just click download on this most recent one here. I'm just going to get a download of it really quick, and we're going to use this later on in the video. The second one is steamcmd, so a steamed command prompt pretty much. And I just found it on the Valve developer community wiki page. If you scroll down here, it says Windows, download steamcmd for Windows. Just click on the one right here. I'll probably just leave a drive link, or I'll just leave the link to this down below. You'll need that. And the third thing we have is Dropbox open here. This is for custom maps. So if you're looking to get a custom map, make sure you have a Dropbox account and just upload any of the .map files you have here. So I found these sample ones from, I think it was a code fling or something. I just got 2 map files here, and this is the one I'm using. So I'm going to keep this in Dropbox for later. So the first thing we're going to do here is go into our file folder. I'm going to go into the drive that we have Rust installed in. Now I have a ton of them here. For me, it's on my C drive, and we can figure that out by going to Steam. Steam will open up. We'll go to our library here. We'll go up to Rust, right click, go to properties, and we should notice under installed files, we've got this space on this drive. So we know it's the C drive based on this. So we're gonna make sure we go to that drive here. If it's not C, say it's D or E, keep that in mind because you're gonna need to change something a little later if that's the case. So let's open up our Samsung drive here, and we're going to make 2 folders. So we're going to click new folder. We're going to make one called steamcmd. You can name this one really whatever, but steamcmd makes it easy to recognize. And the next one, this one is sensitive. You need to make sure it's named exactly how I name it. Rust server. Now the next thing we're going to do is find the Steam file that we downloaded just a minute ago. So here it's steamcmd in my downloads. I'm just going to extract this folder. Just like that. It's going to open up another window, and inside we've got steamcmd right here. I'm just going to copy this file. I'm going to go back over to my drive that Rust is in and open up the steamcmd folder and just paste the application in there. Now all we have to do now is just double click this to run it. Okay, so once you have the Steam arrow and a flashing line, you are good to go. If I can make this window a bit bigger here. So we got a few things we need to type in. The first one is force_install_dir for directory. And then in quotations, we put the drive letter. So this is where if you have Rust on a different drive, make sure you change this. For us, we have C, but say if you have it on the D drive, put D in there. We're gonna do : and we're gonna type in rust server / and press the quotation again. And then press enter. And nothing's going to show up. It's just going to make a new line there. That actually tells you that you did it right. The next one we do is login anonymous. You can't skip this step. If you do, it will not work and it'll get mad at you. So just let it do that. The next thing you need to do is this app_update 258550. And this is like the identifier for Rust. This actually installs Rust. Now you have to have Rust installed or this won't work. This does not work with a cracked version of Rust, so it has to be authentic. And if you want to go on to say the staging branch, you can actually just do, I believe it is I think it's beta staging. Pretty sure this is the one that gets you onto staging branch. Yeah, -beta staging is the way you do staging branch if you do want it. What I'm going to do is just go back out. I'm just gonna do the normal branch. And this is going to take some time, so I'd go wait 5 minutes, go get a drink or something, and just come back to this in a few minutes. Okay, so once this is app 258550 fully installed, you can just type in quit to close this command prompt. And we're just going to go back to our file folders here. We're going to go into our drive again, and we're going to go now to the Rust server folder. And you should see all of this stuff here. This stuff is pretty important. It's pretty much your entire game. And we're going to make a, here, yeah, actually, we're going to do new. We're going to do text document. And we're just going to call this a, I don't know, run server, because we want to run the server with it. You can name this whatever. Now we're going to go into it, and we're going to paste in this bunch of stuff right here. I'll leave a copy and paste in the description for this, but pretty much this is like the configuration for your server. So we got the stuff that we originally put into the steamcmd, and this pretty much allows the server to run it every time that it loads up. We've got the server port, server level, so you can set this to like Happus or whatever, server seed, and the world size, like the identifiers. You can find different ones on Rust maps. I'll leave a link as well in the description for them. Max players and host name and all that stuff doesn't really matter unless you port forward your server, which pretty much makes it a public server that others can join. So you don't really need to worry about most of this. If you just want a normal server, you can pretty much just do Control-Shift-S. And this is something we need to pay attention to here. On your file name, just add .bat. You have to add that to it. And then save as type, you need to set that to all files. And click on save. And then you just close this window. And that should have saved it here as run server Windows batch file. If it doesn't say batch file, you did it wrong. You gotta try it again. And this batch file is pretty much like a file that you can execute. It'll actually run things when you start it. So if we double click on this, it's actually going to run a server. And it's going to go through a ton of stuff. It's probably going to look pretty messy like it is now. Let it go. Just let it do its thing. It'll take 5 to 10 minutes depending on your map size. So just let it do its thing and come back. And once you're able to type in the space, it's done. It's ready. I just wanted to say as well, you're going to see a ton of stuff like this. You're going to get tons of errors. For some reason, Rust, it just goes through like a bunch of cautions and errors every time it loads up. It's completely normal. If it stops loading for whatever reason, press enter. It pretty much just bypasses the issue. For some reason, that's just how the game works, but it's no worry. You just got to skip past them and just wait for the server to load. And yes, it does look this messy most of the time. It used to look better. It does not. This is just how this is just how the command prompt looks. Okay, so I'm able to type stuff in here now. It's awesome. Usually a bunch of stuff just clears from here, but once it says cannot establish a secure connection to like TCP and then it's like an IP address, usually it's loaded then. But I just realized that the map cache just says it's uploaded to the back end and we got this information here. It typically means that you're good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a Rust, open up my console here, and we're going to type in client.connect localhost 28015. You type it in just like this and press enter. Give you a little bit of information and it should start to connect here. It might take a minute just to connect to the server. And just so you know, you will not find this in the server browser. It will not show up even if you give it a name and a description. It will not show up in there unless you have port forwarded the server. When it comes to port forwarding, I recommend checking in with your service provider and looking up a tutorial with them. Everybody's got different Wi-Fi service providers and it's different for every single interface. So check in with your provider and they should be able to tell you how to do it. All right, and we are in the server here. Now, if you didn't change your seed or your world size, it should look something similar to mine here. And you're pretty much the only person on your server. If you press escape, you're going to notice this says Amsterdam 2, 223 out of 500. This is your server. This is like a placeholder, a bunch of information that Facepunch has set up. I had a lot of people ask about this in my 2023 edition. This is normal. It says on any server that you client.connect to, even if it's a Rustoria US main, it'll say this if you client.connect. Now, you can't really do much. You can't fly around. You can't spawn any items, and you're pretty much playing like it's a vanilla server. So if you want to make yourself admin, we need to go back to our command prompt here. And in our command prompt here, we can actually see our join log here. And it lets me know right here that I've spawned in. And it gives me this bunch of numbers here. We want to copy this. I'm going to copy that. And now this happened here. And if you haven't seen this before, it's all good. But this is a problem. And you notice I just disconnected. This often happens when you do Control-C. And I want to just go over this in case you do it and you don't know what happened here. This is a big problem. Now, it's not a bad one. And it's going to say, do you want to terminate this batch job? If you say yes, it just closes the window and shuts off. I'm just going to put in an N, and that just means no, and it's going to redo it and reload the server. But if you do Control C, it actually does this. It crashes it. So you want to manually type this in or have it copied from like Steam.io. I'll paste the link down below, and you can actually find your Steam 64 ID there as well. But just make sure you don't Control C or this will happen. So now I gotta wait and the server will reload, and then we can do this again to make ourselves have admin permissions. Okay, so we're back to the map cache, and we're gonna type now owner ID space, and then we're gonna paste in my Steam ID, and we're just gonna press enter, and it's gonna say added owner unnamed Steam ID, and it's gonna just repeat what you put in there. And now we can go and we can connect back to our server, and you have to do it back from client.connect. If you press retry connecting, it actually won't work. So go back to your client.connect again and do that. All right, now we're back in again. And now some things that you can do with admin that are fantastic to know. And all of this is pretty much done from the F1 console. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do F1. And to begin with, at the top here, we've got items. You can spawn in any of these things, and it'll show in chat, and just say that you spawn them in, and it shows up on the side of your screen. So you can pretty much spawn in whatever you want from your F1 console, and you can also just go to the console tab, and you can do in no clip. If you put no clip in, now you can fly around, and if you press it again, you stop flying. For me, I have it binded to N, so I'm able to do that. Lovely. And you can just do that by going bind and no clip, and that'll bind it to N. I have ENT kill, so I can go bind, say, I think I have it set to L as ENT kill. If you do that, right, what I can do is grab myself a building plan. Actually, let's do this. Let's do a stone wall. If you place that down and I press L, it deletes it. Fantastic for build servers that you want to use this. So if you don't want to do a ton of building on here, fantastic bind to have right there. Now what I'm going to do now, because I mean we have a server now, awesome, that's great. But what if you want to do more? What if you want to put mods on your server? And what if you want to do a custom map? What if you say use Rust edit lots and you want to design some custom monument that you want to load? We can definitely do that. So I'm just going to disconnect from my server. I'm just going to type in disconnect. And now we got some more work to do in our file folders, but that's okay. Super easy to do. All right, so I'm back to my home screen here. I'm gonna go back into my files, and what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna take the CMD window and close it. And just so you know, if you close this window, it stops your server. Great thing, I should have pointed that out earlier. What we're gonna do here is go to our downloads, and we installed oxide.rust. That was from the games Rust link that I was talking about at the start of the video. This is how we get mods on our server. I'm going to extract this. And we only need one thing from in here, and it's the Rust dedicated data. This is super important. So I'm going to copy this and go back to our Rust server folder and paste it. And it's going to say that this destination has 11 files, give or take 11, with the same names. You want to replace the files in the destination. Do that. It's going to do that. And then now what we need to do is reboot the Rust server. And now I'm going to leave this open side by side so you can see how the folder here changes. But we're going to get a new folder called Oxide and a new Rust dedicated image that's sort of like orangey. So we're going to let that load in. It's going to take a minute before it shows up. There's Oxide, and just load it in right here. And we're going to get another little application that'll show up. And the application isn't important. All we care about is the Oxide folder, but it sort of just gives you the indication that Oxide has actually been installed. There it is, Oxide compiler. Now I'm going to let this keep loading, and I'm just going to talk about how you actually get mods into your server. So Oxide here, you can open this folder up, and you got 5 other folders. We don't really care about much of them. We only care about config and plugins, but certain plugins will require the use of the language and the data folder. Now in plugins is where you can paste ones that you download off of umod, and these are going to be in C# files. They're going to say .cs. You'll actually put these into here, and we can do that really quick by going to umod. So in umod, I'm going to go over to plugins. We're going to click on Rust. And you can actually look for any plugin that you'd see on most modded servers. Things such as, let's let's do Vanish. That's one that admins use so that they can be invisible and watch you. Vanish is a super common plugin. So we're going to click on the download right here. It's going to download vanish.cs. And I'm going to close these other windows just so they're not distracting here. We're going to open up our downloads. We're going to go get vanish.cs. I'm just going to copy it. And we're going to go back to our Rust server, go to Oxide, go to plugins, and we're going to paste it in here. Just like that. And now it's not going to do anything. It's just sitting in there right now. What we want to do is get it to show up in config, because config's where you can customize a plugin, but there isn't much in here for Vanish. You can't really customize it, and it just showed up there. But plugins like the Furnace Manager that allows you to adjust the smelting speed, or say a Recycler Manager that you changes the recycling speed. You can actually control the variables in here. You can change their speed. Now, Vanish just showed up in here, and the nice thing is, because we're loading the server, it's going to load it right there. However, if your server is already active, you're going to have to run a command in the server to get them to show up here if you don't want to restart the server. So I'm going to show you how to do that once this thing fully boots up, and it allows us to add plugins as we're playing on the server. Now, it's good to know, keeping this umod page open, it's super useful because it actually allows us to give ourselves the permissions to use these plugins. By default, you're not going to be able to use Vanish. It won't let you do anything with it. So we need to keep this page open because we need a few of the permissions bits of information here, mainly vanish.allow. And I'll show you how to actually give yourself permission to use stuff like this. Now, pretty much every single plugin that has user controls has a permissions section to it. And you can just find it through this table of contents or by scrolling down here. So once this loads up, we're going to be able to tinker with Oxide and change a few things around with different plugins. And what I'll do, for example, let's click on Rust, and we're just going to set this to most downloads here. Now, Gather Manager is the one that pretty much every modded server uses to change the rate of resource collection, to make it 2x or 5x or 10x. And Stack Size Controller lets you change, say, how many med syringes you can have in one stack. By default, it's 2, but with this, you could make it 25. There's kits. You can do those for kit servers. Radar is for admins. No give notices hides the gives that we did earlier through the console. It hides them from showing up in chat. A lot of cool stuff. I'm just going to go back to Vanish here, though. We're just going to keep that open. Our server's going through every single error in the books, including my IP address. I'm going to blur that out. So I'm just going to close or minimize these. Don't close them. You want to keep your CMD open. And we're just going to connect back to our server here. We're loading in. Okay, so now that we're in the server, we need to be able to configure the plugin that we have. Of course, we just got Vanish. So we're going to check on our plugin page here. And we need to give ourselves vanish.allow to use the plugin. I'm just going to copy this. And we're going to go into our F1 console. And we're going to do oxide.grant user, and we're going to type in our name. For me, it's Waffle. You can also use your Steam64 ID for that if there's a ton of players on your server, if you port forwarded and got your friends on. And then we're just going to paste in that permission. And it's going to return that player Waffle Steam64 ID was granted the permission vanish.allow. Instead of typing oxide.grant, you can actually just use o.grant. You can just do o.grant. If you're typing a lot, just do that. And now the nice thing is I can do vanish, and it's going to vanish enable. So now I'm not actually invisible to myself. I'm still here, but to other players on a server, I'm actually invisible right now. So that is one functional plugin that we're able to run on this. Of course, it's not practical when you're on your own server, and there's a ton of other ones you can get that aid building and just fooling around and all that. So definitely read through umod and see what you can install. Of course, one common one is Skinbox. That one's from, I think it's Curse Code or something, some coding website, and it costs, I think, $25 US to install. Definitely a nice plugin if you want to skin stuff on your own server, though. I'm just going to disable this here. The one thing I did say that you need to be able to do is actually load plugins in the server without restarting the server. And the cool thing you can do is go into your F1 console and type in o.reload or oxide.reload space star. All that does is reload every single plugin. So if I'm in Vanish, I'm going to enable Vanish and go up here. I'm going to reload the plugin. O.reload. And it kicked me out of Vanish because it just reloaded the plugin. but it put me back in Vanish after the fact because I had it enabled before. But that is how you reload plugins. So if you were to go into your folders here and go to Oxide and go to plugins and you loaded a plugin in while you're still in the server, just do that o.reload and it'll actually render that plugin for you and let you use it without restarting your server in any way. Now that's cool and all, but this is still a classic Rust map, and I have a custom map say. I want to load a custom map in my server because I made one, it's cool, I want to test it out, and this one sucks. So I'm just going to disconnect here, and I'm just going to close down my server. So close down the CMD here. Now the one thing I need to do is go to my Dropbox here, and I want to use this server. It's a map file, and you'll know it because on your file folder, it's going to say .map at the end of the name of the file. Make sure you get a .map. It won't work without. We're going to click on share. We're going to click on copy link, and we're going to copy the link it gives us here. So now that I've got this copied, I'm just going to go back out here, and we're going to go close Rust entirely and just keep this back here. We're going to open up our file folder again, and now we're going to go back to our Rust server, and we're going to go over to Windows batch file. Now, you don't want to run this again, but we want to right click on the batch file and go down to edit in Notepad. And this is going to allow you to change the bat file without running it. Now, there's a few things in here we need to look at, mainly server level, server seed, and server world size. First off, just delete server seed and server world size. Just select this amount from the plus to the end of the 0 here. Delete that. And in the brackets of server.level, we're going to highlight procedural map. Make sure it's inside the, the quotations, not brackets. Highlight that and paste in the link that you copied. And at the end of the link, it says download is equal to 0. Change the 0 to a 1. And that makes it so that if you were to click on this link, it'll automatically download the file. Whereas normally it'll actually just take you to Dropbox. The problem with that is if you were a player trying to join, you don't want to go to Dropbox. You want the client to install the server for you or install the map file for you. So make sure it's able to do that by making it download is equal to 1. And the only other thing we got to add is server.level. Just add URL at the end of level, just like that. Plus server.level URL, just like that. And this is pretty much all you need to add a custom server in. I'm going to save this file and I'm going to reload that batch file. We're going to double click it and run it again. Okay, so our custom map is all done. Bradley APC spawned. On a map that does have Bradley, this will always show up and it does let you know that the server is active. So it's a good little identifier as well. So let's go back here. Let's load back into our server. There we are. All right, and here's our custom map. Perfect. So that loaded it quite well. Now it's pretty straightforward. If you do have any issues with your custom map, it's likely a broken prefab or something that actually was put in the map that didn't work properly or is no longer supported in the current version of Rust. So definitely make sure that your map file is new and it's fresh. If you have Rust edit, just do a new export of it and make sure that all your prefabs in there are up to date and you don't have any broken or modified bits in there, because it won't actually load the server at all. And that's probably one of the most common issues that people tend to have. So make sure that your map file is fresh and it's just uploaded to Dropbox in the right way and you'll be good to go. There's our custom map. Well, you reached the end and hopefully you've got a server up and running right now. If you don't, that's okay. Join the Discord and let me know about your problem or what you're facing or why it's not working out for you, and I'm more than happy to help out. Please subscribe or even leave a like if you can. Be really appreciated, and I'll see you next time.